Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now.
That's right. Howard Bender, Lisa Ann right here for Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Better Sports Network as well as Fantasy Alarm. Howard, I have to say first and foremost, the shirt tonight, your shirt selection is spectacular.
You like that, huh? I appreciate that very, very much. Well, I'm sure Deborah appreciates it because I don't pick out stylish things for me. I'm always about the plain clothes. I felt originally that this was like Frank Costanza cabana wear, but if you're digging on it, thank you so much.
I feel it's very like a Tommy Bahama kind of, it throws a really good vibe. It also has just the right amount of blue to entice me into believing that you want to talk about the Cowboys as much as possible, along with your blue eyes. But I understand that you, my friend, you and I have both been in a ton of drafts. You just got off air of Fantasy Alarm. We've got a busy show here because we've got a lot of news to talk about, more news that we expect at this time of the season with question marks to players that we've already drafted. But in our lives, I understand that you're living the life of a houseboy right now, Howard. Would you like to share with all of us what's been going down at the Bender household?
Wow, no secrets here at all. This is just out. Here's my life in public. Yeah. So when you and I were at the Fantasy Football Expo, my darling bride was at the Outside Lands Music Festival here in San Francisco.
Okay.
And she got the COVID.
Oh, so Rona was also at the show.
Oh, yeah. Rona. Always hanging out. Especially, listen, come on. Dirty festival in San Francisco. Bunch of hippies out there.
Especially if you have to use a bathroom.
Oh, right. Even if you're VIP, you still the Rona is all over the bathroom.
Yeah. Rona's there. She's having the time of her life.
So she had a great time. She hugged and kissed a lot of people. And the next thing I know, she's got the vid. And I got to tell you, man, it has been since our show, right? It has just been one miserable day after another because that's when like the symptoms all started. Like we finished the show last week, you and I. Yes. And I went into the house and I was like, hey, what's going on? She was like, oh, I'm sick. Just leave me alone. Shut the hell up. I don't want to talk to you. Like, that's what I was dealing with.
Well, we hope she's on the road to recovery and gets well soon. And it shows your genetics. I mean, the fact that you have not caught this, so you two share a household, shows just, the physique is a facade to what's really going on with the body, the machine that is Howard Bender.
Yeah, you know what? I've had the Rona twice. I'm very surprised it didn't. You know what? The reason that I didn't catch it this time, at least from her, was because I was like, listen, this is draft time right now for fantasy football. This is people pounding the pavement, getting all the answers that they need to do. I put out an article today about fantasy football fades. Everybody the world needs me here right now, Lisa. And so I said to my wife, I said, I love you so much. You belong in that bedroom on the other side of the house. I will happily sleep on the couch. I will have, and I made sure that like when I went out, I got Lysol wipes in case, I have to touch the remote control or anything like that. It's too important right now for me to go down and out with the illness here, Lisa. And so here I am.
Yeah, this is like an election season for a campaign manager, right? Or for a politician. This is your peak. This is April for an accountant, right? There's no room for error here. And ironically, when we bring up Rona, I think this is probably a good time to tell you about a sucker bet that I made last year with the man that is now your favorite human being, that you finally watched 2 episodes of Hard Knocks. You are finally leading in. And I would like to really be able to, I would like to mount my high horse here, if you don't mind. I'm going to climb on. I'm going to buckle in. I'm going to braid my hair real quick. So I, have an equestrian style going on. But the propaganda that was fed to us about Aaron Rodgers and the way that the world just listened to clickbait and never learned anymore when they had the opportunity to be a part of Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays every Tuesday during the football season, even win, lose, nothing. The man showed up and you get to know him. You get to know what he's reading, what he's doing, what he's about. So this brings me to the sucker bet. When Aaron Rodgers came out and said he was immunized, right? Remember that?
Mhm.
I call my friend who I make all my sucker bets with, he calls me too sometimes. Hey, I don't know why either of us do it because we know if one of us has the hunch. I said, yo, I want to throw down $500 that Aaron Rodgers not vaccinated. He's like, why would you say that? He just did this presser. I'm like, because he's smarter than the room. And right now, what he's doing, we were living in a vax, non-vax conversation. There was no mid-ground. There were no words we had not yet. And at that moment, I was like, this man is brilliant. Now, mind you, this was maybe July or August. He said this. This bet didn't cash till October. But you better believe that PayPal money came in day one because I was like, this guy he's outsmarted everybody. Now you see him on Hard Knocks and you get to know him a bit. I also feel we've seen this with quarterbacks. Tom Brady, we saw a lot more of his personality when he went down to Tampa Bay. Maybe it's the new regime, the new energy, the new light. It just so happens Hard Knocks is showcasing the Jets, which was smart. This is the most electrifying trade Jets fans have witnessed for seasons after seasons, So it's been how many years since you've been there? Like 50. So with that said, I love that people are starting to come around because they're watching Aaron Rodgers, and it's disappointing. Like, the world is just filled with so much propaganda, and they want us to just not be interested in reading the articles or listening to the full podcast. People form opinions about podcasts, radio shows, celebrities, athletes over a clickbait statement that if you read the article, 90% of the time isn't even connected to the darn article. So here we are. Tell me how you feel about this lovely gentleman who is fit, who is positive, who has a nice hippie vibe that I know you can lean into, did a little smoky gesture the other day on the sidelines. Like, how are you feeling about Aaron Rodgers now, Harold Bender?
So I got to tell you, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you threw down the Tom Brady comparison. Like, Brady left New England and all of its rules and you just don't want to get on the bad side of Bill Belichick. Brady said, you can very easily do whatever you want as long as you show up to work every single day ready to work. If you screw around, well, then Belichick's not going to be happy with you and he's going to give you the heave ho. But when he went down to Tampa Bay and he was able to speak freely and kind of do his own thing, and he was, getting bombed on camera, things like that. I mean, listen, it was like all of a sudden his personality like really shined through. And yeah, listen, I don't necessarily know if we're getting the full story here on Aaron Rodgers because it's Hard Knocks and that obvious thing. But
what do you think is missing?
I don't know if there is anything missing. I'm sure
He's fantastic.
It is fantastic. It is 100%
fantastic. I understand why Greeny loves him so much.
Do you know what it was for me with him during the show? I'll tell you flat out. When he walked around to Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett and everybody else and was like, did you say hi to Liev Schreiber? Did you say hi to the voice of God?
The voice
and he
of God.
Like really,
it's like, why aren't you going to go say hi to him? Like, this is a big opportunity. It's the only time he's ever gotten to come to one of these in person. Like, this is a big deal. They had just met at the celebrity golf tournament in Tahoe, and it was Aaron that invited him. And I love that he showed up in a chopper.
Well, he showed up. I mean, listen, that was hysterical. Like the whole thing with the chopper. But what I loved the most about it was that, Rodgers he was like talking to everybody, just basically he cared more about Liev Schreiber feeling comfortable out there. I mean, listen, we always think that, when celebrities are, actors or actresses that they, that they are that person, that they're an outgoing person, that they're a fun-loving person because of whatever roles or whatever it is that they do. Liev Schreiber was, you could tell he was completely starstruck being around football players, completely starstruck. And Rodgers recognized that. Like when the two of them first were like, and it was kind of awkward or whatever, like Rodgers wanted to like loosen him up a little bit. That's why he went to the other. the fact that he was thinking more about that aspect of it, just being like, he's a regular guy, just talk to him. He just wants to be welcomed here, and he just wants to have fun. Like that to me trumped the, which, I love. And I love hearing the offensive lineman being like, he's cool as fuck. Right. Yeah. Because, listen, you get that vibe and you develop that vibe with people. And that's a vibe that we haven't seen from Aaron Rodgers because of the way the media's portrayed him. But it was that time that he really spent walking around trying to get everybody to loosen up and welcome in Liev Schreiber, who obviously Aaron Rodgers loves and respects and whatever.
I need to hear from Better Boss as a comment in the chat that says, I still can't root for Rodgers. Please tell me why. Please give me 3 reasons,
why
Better
can't
Boss.
I see the chat?
What?
I can't see the chat. I'm in the wrong link. They keep sending me the wrong link. I can't find the chat.
Oh no. Well, at break, we can work that out. I'll read anything. I'll read it. And here's a good one. Sit the narrator of documentary for your life. Morgan Freeman, Liev Schreiber, or Keith David.
I mean, everybody's going to say Morgan Freeman, but listen, I love Liev Schreiber. And it was even before Ray Donovan, right? I mean, Ray Donovan was a sick show. It was an unbelievable show. But I loved him. He played Sabretooth in the X-Men movies.
Listen, can I choose Larry David? I know he's not on the list, but I'd rather have Larry David to be the narrator.
You want Larry David to narrate the story of your life?
Why not? He's not a Packer anymore, so I can't root for him, Jeff says. We're talking about Hard Knocks. If you haven't watched it, it's great. But his energy, from what I picked up from watching him for these last 3 seasons, just the fact that he's always there. He cares about all the guys in the show, knows what's going on in their life. Somebody has a baby, somebody's getting married. Like, he remembers things. Like, he genuinely cares about people. And so when I was, gravitating towards understanding who he is as a person off the football field, it hurt my feelings to listen to so many hosts. It's hard for me to listen to hosts say, oh, I can't trust anybody that doesn't have a family. Well, you know what? Not everybody has a family. So don't say that, because it's a horrible thing to say. And it's not another reason to hate Aaron Rodgers, because then you have to hate me too, fist bump. And I'm sure you've seen what Baker Mayfield is going through with his family, scamming it out of money. And yesterday, McAfee said something that really hit home. He said, when you get, screwed over by your parents, it is almost impossible for you to trust anybody again for the rest of your life. Those are your parents. And it's so true, because I have major trust issues. And I was like, this was better than 4 years at a shrink. Oh my gosh, McAfee, now I get myself. Yeah. So there were just a lot of negative things, but yes, how proud of you that I had a sucker bet with a friend, because I was like, oh, hell no. He is outsmarting the media, and no one has used that word yet. And they're going to buy into it hook, line, and sinker. And then when they figure out they're going to be mad, I'm not going to be mad, because I'm going to have $500 extra.
I mean, listen, I thought it's a great bet, and you turned out working well on that. I just you make such a great point as far as how people just misread situations. That whole, family, maybe his family's filled with a bunch of idiots. I mean, that's the thing. My parents put me into debt, 6-figure debt. My parents did. They took out all these loans in my name. I had no idea what was going on, and they defaulted on all of them. So, so I get that. So because I don't talk to my parents at all, or my family, that I'm a bad person? I don't think so.
But you hear it a lot. It is an excuse people use with him a lot on a lot of different networks. And to me, I feel like in sports media, it's just such a harsh personal thing to say. And I think you and I have more empathy because of not having a relationship with our family. So we can understand it, relate to it differently. But I am glad that you are leaning in. My greatest joy is...
I'm more than leaning in. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, fast and furious here. Week 1, you and I are going to be doing this show the Wednesday before week 1. I will be head to toe in green.
I feel you. Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be? I mean, so I feel your excitement, and I love it. And I love that people are getting to see a different side of him. And I do like these players. We use Brady for an example, Stafford for an example. When they make a move later in their career, they know that's a gamble. Nobody thinks it's going to work. Should you have just finished your career where you were already, kind of in a legacy status there, like Brady with New England? But when you move and you have this fresh start, I feel like they can be such great mentors to young players. I feel like they can be such a great example. They're fresh, but yet They're old, but they're new. They're old because they've been through every story of a game, snow, rain, all kinds of things. They've had all this experience. They still work really hard, and they're just a great example. And I think moving veteran players around in the league is really valuable for young players.
I definitely agree with you. I think their influence is absolutely huge. I mean, you know what? I mean, listen, I think that it's in any industry. Any industry. Let's take our industry here, fantasy sports industry. You've got all of these young up and comers. I'm sure you met Hutch Brown at the
I
expo.
love Hutch. And you know what, Howard? It was your show, The Fantasy Alarm, that introduced me to Hutch. He had called in. It was a couple of years ago, and you were having him. You built a relationship with him, and I was fascinated right away. I went to follow him, and I think at the time he was 15 or 16, and I was like, "Is this going to seem weird if I follow him? Because people are so weird, and he's a minor, But I'm going to follow him, and I'm just going to send him a message saying like, you are absolutely brilliant." He sounded so mature when he was on your show that day that I was like, I can't wait to meet him. And when you look at people who discount youth and intelligence, let's give the kid credit because there's so many other things. He could be wasting his life away just playing video games, right? He could be out doing whatever, but he's using his mind. He's engaging. He's intelligent. He's passionate about it. And he's just a young little baller, right? So I'm having him on my podcast next week.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. See that's the thing. Like it takes people like you and I who have been in this industry for a number of years to, help usher in the next generation. A lot of people, it's kind of funny, like Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre always said, I'm not going to train my replacement. Aaron Rodgers kind of said that to Jordan Love as well, but they never want to, there's always going to be somebody who's younger and hungrier and smarter than you. You have two choices. You can either nurture that and help build them up and be something bigger in the industry, or you can try and stop progress. I choose to embrace the change. And I feel like, helping younger fantasy analysts is the way to go. Much like you just said, Aaron Rodgers going and imparting his wisdom to, NFL players all over the place. And, here in New York, where it's brutal being a Jet. It's brutal.
Yeah. And I exist in all the spaces of my life with having as many young people. I mean, Kay just turned 30, but when Kay and I met many years ago, but young people teach you a lot. They're a little bit more current on some new things or tricks or tools on a computer. Like what you can learn that's naturally embedded in them is beautiful. So yeah, it's important. That mentorship is really good. And we talk about young players. I'm not sure if you got to watch the Johnny Manziel doc yet. I had recommended it, but I know you had some errands
I did
to run.
not yet.
I won't spoil it. I'm going to save it for anybody out there. Watch it so that when we get into this conversation next week for the show, it's a great story about someone wasting youth. It's a great story about a player that was so talented that didn't really have to put in the work that, you hit the pros and you have to learn the playbook. You have to watch film. You have to do things. And the story is just crazy because when you look at NIL deals now and the fact that Manziel got all that trouble for signing autographs in college, like kids didn't have an opportunity to make money 10 years ago. And now it's so different. They're making millions.
Listen, you were the one who told me to watch Hard Knocks and give it a shot. I've actually never watched a single episode of Hard Knocks, dating all the way back to its inception, which was like 2000.
How could you not get pumped for this season watching Hard Knocks every year?
I know, because I just, because I always worry about the fact that it's, I feel like it could be a distraction for the team. I feel like people are going to play to the camera. And that you're not going to get the full story about players and teams and stuff like that. So I've always avoided it. Now I'm just like the biggest fanboy in the world. And
okay, episode 2, I had brought this up to you before you watched it. Episode 2, they're in Carolina. The scrimmage game gets rained out, and they play the old classic, I Can't Stand the Rain. HBO's production value is one of the reasons why I watch this every year. It is so good. The sound, the video quality, the drone footage, the music that they're able to have access to, because you know how expensive a library, like it is I watch it for all of those things as well as the football aspect.
I'm not going to argue with you at all. High
Damn good.
quality. I love the first 2 episodes. I haven't seen the third one yet. And I dig it. I definitely dig it. It's putting me in a different mindset for the football season. And I'm trying to rein it in, that I'm not like, completely getting but you know what I'm saying.
It's okay, get reined in. We want everybody in here reined in with us. You wrote an article today for the fantasyalarm.com, as you always do. And I got to ask how many things you're writing about how many teams have decided to enter the chat on Jonathan Taylor and the question marks that are. I mean, there's so many ways to look at this. There's still the pup aspect. There's still the team. Like, do you trust Irsay? Do you think he's just saying you can do this? And they're going to make it very difficult. But teams are interested. So do you think this move is going to happen? I know you drafted him third last night in the third round, first pick, third round. I drafted him in the second round of the Queen's Classic. Still felt like I was getting a dip. I'm not worried if he goes somewhere, because obviously they're going to use him. I'm worried that he doesn't go somewhere and he's bitter.
I'm kind of worried that he doesn't go somewhere either. And that's going to be the interesting thing. There are teams where I do think that he fits rather well. And it just depends on the trade. First and foremost, they said that they want a first round draft pick for him. Okay. I'll tell you flat out, if I run the Chiefs, if I run the Dolphins, I am offering my 2024 first round pick, because I know that my team is good. I know that pick will be in the back end of the first round.
Sure.
Maybe the Colts want to take that and package it up with their pick and, and trade up even further. That's not my concern. My concern is that if I'm with the Dolphins, the Jets signed Dalvin Cook, the Patriots signed Ezekiel Elliott. Both those teams have gotten better. You still have, Buffalo in the mix. So, you're looking at what's going on there. If the Dolphins were genuinely in on Dalvin Cook, then they need to add Jonathan Taylor. And then if you look at the Chiefs, he is that type of a running back that Andy Reid covets. Like, you remember like Priest Holmes type of guy, a guy who could definitely rip it between the tackles, but a guy who could also catch passes, work in an RPO situation. I think Mahomes would have a field day utilizing Jonathan Taylor as a pass catching running back in that offensive scheme. So I think those are two teams right there. Give that first round pick right away. Just hand it over.
I mean, I agree. Would really make Miami stronger, especially with the potential setback to A-Chain, which is really upsetting because there was so much talk about him for the last 2 weeks about what a power back he was going to be. Now it could be out. What do you think? Like 4 weeks? It's looking like it could be, which is not awesome for a young running back. So that's a hole. Of course, Ronis and I just wanted to go to the Dallas Cowboys.
But then what happens to Tony Pollard? If he goes to Dallas, then we're crapping all over Tony Pollard in the second round.
We're not crapping all over. Well, for those who drafted him in the second round may feel that way. Yes, I understand that if we're looking in the past, but I don't, why are you bringing up old stuff, Howard? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to look in the future. You know what I mean? Like, don't be like that. But realistically, this could preserve Tony Pollard for what he specializes in. He's such a kind of luxury item, right? But I just don't want to see him get broken down by November, utilizing a role he wasn't. You remember, he wasn't the goal line rusher for the Cowboys last year. That was Zeke. Zeke took that abuse on his body, and Pollard didn't. They have totally different styles, and I just hate to see Pollard be utilized for something that he's not and shorten his season. He already had an injury last year. Not saying he's injury prone, but it is something to consider that in fantasy, we don't love a shared backfield. But in reality, if we're thinking about these players' livelihood for a little bit longer, it is kind of good.
I think if Jonathan Taylor goes to Dallas, I think that's like for Tony Pollard, because he's a pass catching third down running back. And that's basically what we're saying here is that he's like DeAndre Swift, right? He's just a pass catching third down running back who can't take it between the tackles, because if he takes it between the tackles, his body can't take that kind of punishment. But Jonathan Taylor is an every down back. So you're pushing Pollard out.
I think you're sharing, and I think you're also remember something. Jonathan Taylor was injured as well last season, so there's that too. And though he's saying that he's still doing treatment, we don't know if he's healed. We don't know we have no news on the
No
truths
clue.
of this situation. But it's an odd time to be, because if you remember, he came out and said, "Hey, I'm going to play on my contract," and then he switched agents. And ironically, we have a different story right now, and it's late in the game. It's definitely making fantasy drafters, concerned. Britt says he caught 39 balls last year. He's not just relegated to a pass catching role. Thank you, Britt. And by the way,
she's a Cowboys homer too, just like you.
shout out to Britt, doing a show now with my friend Greg Lennard, ESPN Chattanooga. Greg and I just we've been doing shows together for a couple of years remotely. But him and his girl came through the city over the summer, over the fall, I think, because our pictures, we have coats on. Yeah. And we got to meet for the first time in person. He's really, really great guy. And when I saw that tweet go out today, I was like, oh, this is a powerhouse duo. Britt, I love that you're in all caps right now to stress the importance. Britt says JT with the Chiefs would break the league. And then going back to JT. Okay, now I have facts regardless in all caps. This is not about Britt being a Cowboys fan. This is Britt agreeing with me that Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard could be successful together.
Excuse me one second.
Is that a gong? Are you getting a gong?
No. I just figure if you guys are gonna drink that Tony Pollard Cowboys Kool-Aid, then I'm just gonna drink bourbon right now because
oh my gosh, you're having a cocktail?
I think I might have to. I don't even know.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I didn't know we were doing this. It's so early in the show. We've got so much to get to. Okay.
Yeah, but if I gotta listen, I just got off a 2-hour show listening to Jim Bowden tell me that he didn't stack Cowboys in the SiriusXM host league. And I said, well, you did, Jim, because you got Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, and Brandon Cooks on your roster.
That's too much.
So
That's
what,
too much.
even how is that not stacking your team?
Even I don't do that. Well, everyone who's interested, we're going to be following this Jonathan Taylor news day by day. I'm sure it's going to get a lot more interesting, but we are right up against it when it comes to decisions being made, him getting in playbook, him getting into a system. It's going to be a bit of chaos. It's going to test what his real football IQ is to be able to go into somewhere and expose himself to create change. The best way for everybody to stay connected is to follow you, Roto Buzz Guy, and to be signed up at thefantasyalarm.com because you will have all of the updates going. So that's a thing right there. Love it so much. So 49ers Kyle Shanahan has named Sam Darnold as the backup quarterback to Brock Purdy. I drafted Darnold in a couple of best ball drafts.
So did I.
Why not? He was sitting there. You're at the 18th round and a 20 rounder, and you're like, you know what? Both these quarterbacks have had injuries. Again, not saying they're injury prone. He looks great right now. This could be this could be the Geno Smith situation for Sam Darnold, having the experience. You never know. They've got weapons. They've got a good system. But if it gives you 3 good games in best ball, that's all you really need when you're working on bye weeks. So for me, it was kind of like, I got this quarterback and this quarterback, and I forgot they have the same bye week. And here, I'm just going to grab Sam Darnold in the 19th round and feel fine about it.
I have no problem with that. In real early best balls, I was taking Sam Darnold, thinking that with Brock Purdy's elbow and the surgery, that there was a good chance that Sam Darnold could open the season as the starting quarterback for the 49ers. And I got to be honest with you, to quote our good friend Chris Liss from RotoWire, a nutless monkey could legit be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
They still succeed.
Right? I mean, it's unbelievable. So, I see that. I think what the big problem here now is, and dynasty owners are freaking out, is what happens with Trey Lance, because now all of a sudden, I mean, the 49ers were shopping Lance in the offseason. They're obviously not happy with his recovery or his attitude. I don't even know what it is, but that's pretty telling when you announce right now that Sam Darnold is your backup and Trey Lance is not in your picture.
I think Lance could have an opportunity throughout the season as we see injuries happen. I mean, look what teams went through last year with the quarterback swaps, not being, prepared by having a third or a fourth backup for some of these teams. There could be an opportunity mid-season, but this is very telling. It's very telling of what we should be considering when drafting. We're all heading into draft rooms. When we get back, Howard and I are going to go through a couple more injury news and notes. We got a retirement, and I find it very boring. Marshawn Lynch had the best retirement. Remember it? He hung cleats on an electrical wire because we all knew growing up that if there were like a pair of Chucks over a wire, that's where you could buy some vitamins.
Yeah. You know my Marshawn Lynch story, don't you?
Please share.
Oh, I don't like Marshawn Lynch.
Is it a Skittle thing?
No, it's not even remotely a Skittle thing. It's a
he was mean at Deb's club, right?
He wasn't just mean. He helped bum rush the stage so that Mr. Fab could punch DJ Mustard in the face on stage.
I'm sorry to laugh, but it's hard to have this would be like in a courtroom. Okay, so sir, your name is DJ Mustard. Yes, you want to hit up Mr. Fab. Oh, okay. Like this, it's just okay. So, but it was a great retirement notice. We didn't get one of those, but we did get something for all of you in the room. Stay in the chat. I'm going to go through and read them to Howard. He's going to refresh on this break to see if he can then see all of you in the chat, because at this point we are talking behind his back. And that is not what we want to do here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here, sponsored by Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. We will be back.
Bettor Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing, chop to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Burley picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the impounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up at him. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson to carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. They're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downey, swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
And I think that we are back with that.
I just realized? I realized that this shirt color actually matches the Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor logo.
It does. It's so beautiful. It's fantastic. We are back with you right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with Howard Bender. And the retirement that I thought was a little bit lackluster was surprising because we're talking so much Jets news. We've got Jets on Hard Knocks. Don't know if they're going to cover this or if it was, past this, but Corey Davis at 28 years old has decided to retire. We always thought Corey Davis was going to be a thing. You don't understand, Howard.
No, we didn't.
The last 3 years, I did. I was like, this is going to be it. I mean, look, I did the same thing with Devontae Adams for 3 years. And on that third year, he peaked for me. Do you remember the big Devontae Adams in Miami season? I was all over Devontae. So it's just like a weird hunch. Like, this is going to work. Never worked with Corey Davis. I don't know if he feels maybe there's too much competition in the Jets organization right now when it comes to wide receivers and wide receivers that Aaron Rodgers is very comfortable with. But I'm sure hoping that we get a little behind the curtain on what this is all about.
I would like to see a peek behind the curtain there. I've actually never been a big Corey Davis fan. I mean, maybe it was because all right. I'm not a college football guy.
Okay.
I think it can be entertaining. I'll watch the national championship game, yada, yada, yada. But, I don't have fun watching a game that's like 63-14. That doesn't do anything for me. Corey Davis coming out of, I believe it was Western Michigan. And when he came into the league, everybody was all flipped out. Corey Davis is amazing. Corey Davis is amazing. And the Titans drafted him. And so he was going to be working with Ryan Tannehill, which I was like, But, he dealt with injuries constantly. He wasn't on the field the whole time. He wasn't seeing the targets. There wasn't anything dynamic about him. And it just, it perpetuated that whole thing. And everybody was like, oh, he's so amazing still. He's so amazing. And every year they tried to make him a thing. And I was like, I'm not buying into this at all. And so, when he landed with the Jets, I was like, ugh, gross. So I think, you're right. There's a comfort factor. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Rodgers brought them over. Yep. But Rodgers knows also who he has to pay the most attention to, and that's
Garrett Wilson. Yes. I mean, so in a net worth, which these aren't always accurate, but it looks as if Davis is worth an estimated $5 million from his football career. He didn't get a big contract. He'd always been playing on something small. $5 million is not a lot of money for a 28-year-old to even consider retiring completely. So hopefully he gets into a space, whether it's broadcast, maybe he comes into our fantasy sports space because, we love that. But he's going to have to do something because $5 million is like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, $5 million.
Life's expensive. He's only 28. He has to, what if he lives till he's 80? What's his budget? Like, okay, do the math. How many years is that, right? How many months? Like, okay, we're gonna have to cut some corners, that kind of a thing. But it must have been an emotional decision for him because he could have tried to go back and just make more money like a lot of players do.
There's obviously something behind the scenes that we're not sure about. I don't even know. Has Corey Davis ever dealt with concussion protocol? Like, have we ever kind of looked into that? Because that's always the big thing. I remember when it was the linebacker for the 49ers who retired. He was like 28 years old or 26 years old, and he was just done because he was like, I can't do this. I've had 3 concussions so far, and my family and my life beyond football is so much more important. So maybe there was something there for Corey Davis. I'm not 100% sure.
Your friend Dale has a great. Are you able to see us talking now, Howard?
Oh yeah. Now I'm just looking at YouTube. What's Dale say?
You could start a business in any industry with $1 million, invest $1 million. He's still a millionaire for life. Yes, that's true, but there's still risk there. I'm just saying, you never know. But let's talk about some other things here. Why do my Dallas Cowboys like to get in trouble? Cowboys edge Sam Williams was arrested on Sunday. Charges of possessing a controlled substance and an unlawful carrying of a weapon, which is crazy because if he was in Texas, you can legally register there. California, not so much. And they're probably still up in Oxnard. So he would have been in California when this happened.
guess. I don't know. I mean, come on. You got some your cocaine stash and a pistol. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, because you
I
wouldn't
don't get it.
consider marijuana a controlled substance anymore. It's been regulated, so it would
No, no,
have
no.
had to been something.
This is either Coke or Molly, right? One of the two. Um, but yeah, man. I mean, again, I just don't understand. I don't understand some of the level of stupidity of putting yourself in that situation. You're a professional football player. You're making a ridiculous amount of money to play a game. What's wrong with just in the public eye laying a little low? You want to party at home? Party at home. You want to go to a friend's house? Party at a friend's house? Go ahead.
Yeah, you can also
Like,
have someone else who's registered in any state to carry the gun for you as well. So there's many things that you and I see, but this is a normal happenstance, and it makes you wonder how many other players are out there getting away with shenanigans, just not getting caught, right?
dude,
Because
I just saw Ray Lewis on Celebrity Family Feud the other day, right? And we all know with Ray Lewis what happened back then. We all know that his buddy took the rap for him. You telling me that Williams didn't have a buddy that could take the rap for him? You just travel with somebody.
yeah, I travel in a pack for that exact reason. You know what I mean? Just want to be sure somebody's gonna take the rap for me.
Don't say that.
Well, it's funny Vegas
You've already
story.
outed Kay's age to the world now.
Yeah, it's okay. I bought Kay a pair of red bottoms for Kay's 30th birthday, a men's sneaker, Louboutin. It was a good day for Kay.
I
Funny
also
Vegas
say
story.
that Kay does not even remotely look 30.
I know,
Like,
right?
I saw Kay. I thought she was like 23, 24 years old.
Yeah, for sure. Vegas story with a friend. We're walking through a casino. We're trying to find a spot that isn't too crowded. I knew my way to this. Like, I always go to the high rollers bar. They're never going to throw me out, even though I don't gamble, because, they want ladies in there. So my girlfriends and I will go back there, and it's just a bunch of old men with scars, and they're usually like doing their own thing. It's not as crowded. So we're walking through, and I'm like, I looked at my friend who I'm going to see this weekend. Austin travels to every Vegas trip with me, and so does Madison. I looked at him. I said, "Do you trust me?" And he said, "Well, yeah." And as we start walking at a faster pace, he's like, "Are we about to Ocean's 11 this bitch?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I just know of a secret spot. We're walking there real fast to get out of this crowded casino." But it was so funny. And I looked at him, I go, "That would be your job, not my job. I can't go down for anything." But Andy Reid having a job right now. We had a tweet go out today from Chris Jones from the Kansas City Chiefs saying he's willing to hold out till like week 8. He's gonna have to pay massive fines. This is not an easy situation to bend, and puts Andy Reid in an awkward situation because as a coach, you really can't give out information of what's going on with the office, right? It's got to be so awful to be asked these questions, and a huge distraction for the team.
And you know what? And I love Chris Jones. I really do. I think, it's going to be very damaging for the Kansas City Chiefs defense if they don't come to some sort of an agreement. He's a great run stopper. He's a great pass rusher. There's so much to love about Chris Jones's game that it's very unfortunate. Again, I mean, listen, I think any contract negotiation battle that's going back and forth is definitely a shame. But I mean, obviously, I'm not on the ownership side. I'm not necessarily on the player's side here because, again, you get a player who's like, well, I played really well, so I should renegotiate my contract. And I don't believe in that at all. I feel like if you sign a deal, you honor that deal and you work towards it afterwards. But, this would be a bad thing for the Kansas City defense. I mean, it's a good thing that you got Patrick Mahomes capable of putting up a 40 burger on any defense at any time, because his defense is going to start giving up some serious points without Jones.
Yeah. And, I think it's part of our generation. I think for us, when we signed something, we stuck with it, whether we liked it or not. And I think now with social media and being able to make your own statement and be able to, kind of garner your own electricity towards your side of the story, everything is very different. Nobody seems to care. They signed something. It doesn't really matter. We're going to renegotiate. But to us, it's like, oh, I didn't like that first contract with my cell bill, but I didn't fight to get out of it. I just dealt with the 2-year relationship and moved on, simple as that. But Sean Engel producing for us tonight put something great in the chat. Follow up on Corey Davis. He was in the concussion protocols multiple times, including last year with the Jets and when he was with the Titans. So this could be part of it as well, because it's smart to step away before you cause permanent damage. Because again, 28 in football might seem old, but 28 in the real world is really young. He's got a wife and some kids. He could do anything he wants with his life now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if that being the case, it's a safety issue, it's a family issue, then I wish him nothing but the best. I will still laugh at the fantasy football Twitter people who are such truthers for him. But I respect that. I respect the ability for a player to walk away from the game like that, understanding what the priorities of life are.
I agree. And we've seen so many players go off and be successful doing other things. And yes, if he does invest that money properly, he's going to be set forever, right? It's just a matter about doing the right things. There's a lot more players out there. Right things, not so much for my Queen's Classic draft, because, you know, I took Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and the kid decided to break his wrist on me. This was not what we talked about when I invited him onto my squad. Okay. When I draft, I welcome them to my team. If you have other teammates that you know, you already have friends here. Maybe you don't have friends here, but I think you guys are going to get along. Here's a little pep talk with each pick, and did not predict an injury this early. Was really hoping for something there. So I'm already trying to make a waiver wire move.
So clubhouse chemistry, fantasy clubhouse chemistry is an important factor for you.
It sure is. It sure is. Whether it's a whole stylish, you know, I did have one of my best balls. I picked all players that are like super swaggy and stylish. And that starts off with, of course, Joe Burrow. I mean, I can't wait to see what that kid wears into the stadium every week. He is flashy. He is swaggy, yet he's calm, cool, and collected. You know, his style is just, it's there.
I did the SiriusXM host league draft last night, and you know, I had the number 2 pick overall, and I took Jamar Chase. You know, Colton and the Wolfman in front of me. You know, their smart system. I knew they were taking McCaffrey, and my 1-1 this year is Jamar Chase. So I did that, but then on the 4-5 turn, kind of glanced over at that Shannon Blunt girl, and I was like, I got you right now, Swaggy Joe, going to my team. So I've got the Burrow Chase tandem.
You took him because you knew also that she wanted to have Jamar Burrow on her team?
She's not in this league. This was just the host league.
Okay. Got it.
She's got the same pairing, I believe, in the producer league.
So we have some other injuries already. Jordan Addison, concussion, returned to practice on Wednesday. DJ Chark could miss time with a hamstring injury. What were your expectations for DJ Chark this fantasy football season, Howard?
You know what? I can do the cop out and say I like him more in best ball than I do in season long.
But it's realistic.
I do.
It's not really a cop out. It's a way to still have some shares if you like a player, but not have to manage that player. And you can get into a best ball league every day up until the season kicks off, right? So
yeah.
I don't think that's a cop out. I think that's a realistic way to say I wouldn't never draft this player. I don't dislike DJ Chark. I still think he has some talent, but not enough talent for me to manage in a redraft season-long league.
Correct. And so I had nice high hopes for him, you know, just for, you know, at least a few games. Let Bryce Young kind of get his feet wet and figure everything out. You know, Adam Thielen is the pass catcher for, you know, moving the chains and you know, being a reliable target there. But, you know, DJ Chark stretches the field. He's actually a really good route runner, has good hands.
Yep.
Staying on the field has always been his biggest knock. So, you know, like I said, so having him in on the best ball roster, I think is fantastic. I'm hoping that he doesn't have too long of a time off, and he can stay on the field a little bit more, because I like him for this year.
And injury after injury, players just get out of rhythm, you know, and that's a downside as well. The players that just stick it out, well, we saw Terry McLaurin with this toe injury. MRI came back, no significant injury, but no one's mentioning if they think it's turf toe. And even though turf toe doesn't show up in an MRI, it's definitely a significant injury.
It really is. You're the first person who's actually, I didn't want to say turf toe to Jim, because Jim Bowden would get really upset because he has massive shares of Terry McLaurin.
Is he
I thought about that last
turf
night.
toe? Is he triggered by this could be happening?
I feel like if I said that Terry McLaurin might have turf toe, I think I would trigger Jim Bowden And I think that, I think he would freak out. I think
Let's have an honest conversation about it, because it's one of those things that they really don't have to disclose to us, because it's not something that reads on an x-ray or a test. It would have to be the player that comes out. Now, if you recall, when Aaron Rodgers had turf toe, the media named it COVID toe. Remember?
Yeah.
Do you see how ridiculous all of this is now looking back?
I do.
Right? No one in the world other than Aaron Rodgers ever had COVID toe. It was turf toe. And it did bother him for quite some time. It could be a month.
It could be more than a month, actually.
And it's concerning, because we love what the quarterback looked like the other night for the Commanders. There were good things going on. Let's move over to Cleveland. Jerome Ford's a player that I've been taking a little bit late as just a, backup running back, now dealing with a hamstring, saying ready for week 1. Hamstrings never make me feel good about, there's no go away because you could re-aggravate it so easily.
I only draft Jerome Ford if I have Nick Chubb on the roster already.
Okay.
Like,
So
I'm not gonna go and just grab Jerome Ford for the sake of grabbing him, because that is Nick Chubb's backfield. And if anybody even remotely, like, how many times did people were like, oh, well, Kareem Hunt's going to steal all this work and Nick Chubb's going to suck and blah, blah, blah. It's Nick Chubb's backfield, people. It's Nick's, and that's it. And so Jerome Ford is a great little safety net, a nice little handcuff for you, but overall, not interested in him unless I got Chubb on my roster.
Some great comments. My friend Kevin in the room. Great to see you tonight, Kevin. Roto World called it turf toe, which is kind of the same, right?
Ooh, yeah.
And someone says, I forgot about Rodgers' toe, because yes, we were blaming everything on Rodgers. There was a period of time where Aaron Rodgers was enemy number 1. Okay. And I never understood it. I was like, man, this guy, and you know what? He rode that wave, and I love it. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell said, TJ Hockenson is dealing with a lower back stiffness. That is, to me, concerning for a tight end. And TJ Hockenson is going early in the tight end category this year in drafts, as I've seen.
Yeah, and what's worse is also they're like in the middle of negotiating a contract extension as well. And I think that's, I'm not going to say that one's related to the other, but now you're dealing with, this kind of a potential back injury. Like, didn't they turn around? That was what the Jim Irsay said, right? He was like, oh, well, I believe Jonathan Taylor told me that, he had a back issue, and maybe that was a pre-existing condition. And, well, then I could just put him on the NFI list and he can try and hold out all he wants. Like, Irsay said that. So, the conspiracy theorist in me right now is thinking, well, why are we now suddenly dealing with the lower back stiffness when you guys are clearly as far apart as you are in contract negotiations?
Yeah, it's got to be stressful all the way around and we don't want our players that we're drafting in our leagues for this season to have stress right now. We kind of like them to be just enjoying the camaraderie or being back with their guys. I do like some fights in the scrimmages and joint practices very much. I like that a lot. That shows some intensity, but we don't want to hear you're still kind of filing paperwork, because that's just weighing you down.
Yeah. It's a bummer. I hate dealing with like the negotiation stuff during the time where we should be focused on camp. We should be focused on, what this offense looks like now that, you don't have Thielen, now that you've got Jordan Addison, who just returned to practice. You don't want Jordan Addison just returning to practice and then having Hockenson sit.
You also don't want, excuse me, Jordan Addison getting another concussion, coming back from one just now at practice. These are all concerns that really change how we were looking at our draft rooms 3 weeks ago to how we are now. When is your next in-person draft, Howard?
My next in-person draft?
Do you have any others?
I don't think I have any more live drafts right now. I've got numerous drafts to do, but I believe they're all online. Why do you have a live draft coming up?
I do. Tomorrow night in the city, it's the Squad 18 Firehouse League that I've been in for years. Yes. And this is just the greatest group of guys. And since we've started it, 2 of the guys have retired. They live in Florida now, but they come up. It's a road, they come up and take a little couple days to see all their friends. They do drink and draft. So I do like to buy drinks for everybody, but I'm not drinking and drafting. Like, this is a serious thing to me. I'll substitute the drinking for eating some bad but tasty bar food.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'll balance it out that way.
How many years have you been doing? Didn't when you and I were doing a show?
2015.
Didn't when you and I were doing a show? Didn't we have one of the guys on the show?
Because I had won it the first year I was in it. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I came in third 2 years ago. Like this, I got a gun for it. You know, I've been doing enough best balls. I've been preparing a lot more this season. I'm ready for it. We can't really go off of preseason games. We've already had some drafts, but it is fun to draft in person. And it's the one time I see all of these guys a year. I mean, my friend Justin and I, we see each other regularly, but I don't see everybody. So they have the mailman from the firehouse in the league as well. So the mailman comes, he's super cool. He's like the only non-firefighter other than me. And I'm like, I love that the firehouse, but it's fun. So any of you out there, you know, planning forward, you know, if you can get your friends together, I'm going to be in Vegas on Saturday hosting an event where 30 different leagues will be drafting in one place. It's outside around a pool at a club, and it's just like a day club, and there'll be girls there and the guys drafting. I cannot wait to just interview and see these leagues, ask them the questions of, you know, how it started. Has there been collusion? Have you ever thrown anybody out? You know, just to really dig in and learn more about different, and a lot of these guys, it's a reunion to them. It is the one time they see each other every year.
I was just going to ask you, are these guys, these are existing home leagues, so to speak? They didn't like sign up to join like this massive event. That's pretty damn cool, actually. So they always like, they agree. They're like, all right, we're going to bring our league draft to Vegas and do it here.
They rent the cabana. They bring this, there's TV screens in each cabana. They set it up perfect for them. It's great because the GM also plays fantasy football, and so do a bunch of people. So they know exactly how to be specific. They've been doing it for so many years that it sells out. All the cabanas sell out quickly. But it's cool to see people flying in from all over. So I get to be a part of that, which is going to, like, I'm doing an in-person draft tomorrow, and then I fly to Vegas to watch all these other in-person drafts and just remember why we love this so much.
So all right. So, I mean, the Squad 18 crew there, shout it out to them.
A lot of Giants fans, by the way.
Absolutely love that. Right. Yeah. Okay. Too bad. Like, the fight for Darren Waller is going to be incredible, man. I'm very much looking forward to that. But the Vegas stuff, that like, so you're going and you're going to cover the drafts. You're going to, are you also serving as like a fantasy consultant too?
I'm not.
Gonna dole out some advice?
I'm just a host. All I do is walk around. I'll have the mic. I'll get all the drafts started because they're, you know, all going to start at the same time. And I'm just going to walk around and chat with. I just get to be social. And since, you know, and also I'm also going to drive everybody to the Fantasy Alarm as well as Better Sports Network. Like, I'm going to be out there, you know. I'm an in-person. This is like a cold call. I'm in your face right now. Where do you get your information? Where do you listen? Who loses every year? You need help. Give them a code, a promo code, you know, maybe underdog, you know, those types of things. But it's going to be great. And then there's also a huge Circa fantasy football tournament going on this weekend in Vegas. So there's a couple hundred leagues that have all signed up to be in this 3-day, you know, draft thing. So I'm going to visit on those as well.
Dude, that's this weekend?
Yeah, I leave Friday.
Man, I'm so jealous. Like, I love, like, you know, it was like when we were at the expo, it was fantastic. An event like that is fantastic. I mean, listen, I'm not going to begrudge my fish trip to Colorado in 2 weeks, but man, like 30 leagues drafting at the same time, all sorts of, like, you know, fantasy football conflict and trash talk and all that stuff there. That's going to be a sick time. You're going to have a blast. I think Fantasy Alarm should probably set you up with like a bunch of swag just to give away to the teams.
Yeah, we could do this. That would be great. But yeah, this is my last kind of travel before the season starts. You know, I know you're taking this fish trip. You just want to then settle in, right? You just want to be available. The worst thing to be during this time of the year when you're setting lineups and when you're worried about injuries is on a flight with no Wi-Fi. 4 hours, 5 hours on a plane. You know, I can remember when I first started doing this, and I was flying from my events on Saturday nights to New York City on Sunday morning so that I could do my show with Adam Ronis from Sirius Monday nights. Every Sunday morning when we would land, I would look at how many people were on their phones actually tinkering with their lineups on the plane, just like sitting and letting people walk by them because it was the first time they could connect. And they're like, lineups are locking in 3 minutes, so nobody wants to live that life.
No, nobody does. Nobody wants to live that life at all. It's so funny. One of my best friends, Chris Carota, who's the lighting designer for Fish. We're in the middle of doing a draft right now, and he's like, all right, well, I gotta fly up to Vermont and do we're gonna do a couple of shows there, and then I'm gonna be flying to Colorado, and we're gonna be doing the shows there, and I'll meet you there. Blah blah blah. He's like, you gotta just hit me up if I'm on the clock. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like, so I get it, man. There's like panic in the streets over stuff like that.
That's so nice that you're doing that for him, because with the different time zones, it's easy to forget, and you feel horrible when you're that person that's using the whole clock in a slow draft, and so you just reminding him is great. But we're going to remind everybody, we got a game we're going to play. It is game show time. Stephen A. Smith was also on the Family Feud. He was very disappointed with his family. Afterwards, he said it was not our best showing. We did not do it. I didn't watch it yet, but he made me want to watch it because he said it was awful. So what we're going to do is fantasyalarm.com/underdog. We're going to do some higher or lower, and we're going to ask you guys in the chat. So I'm going to ask you one before we go to break so you can all think about it. Put your answers in the chat. We can recap with all of you before we give our answers. But would you go higher or lower on Lamar Jackson, 55.5 rushing yards versus the Houston Texans? That is the important part, is it's against the Houston Texans that Lamar Jackson has to use his legs for less than 56 yards. How much less? A half a yard less. 55.5. All of you, would you go higher or lower at underdog on that? You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on Better Sports Network and the Fantasy Alarm.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been, I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
We are back right here, Lisa Ann and Howard Bender on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. We've got a little running back news going through the news wire. I just retweeted a story that was posted by Field Yates. As discussed on NFL Live, per holder Steven, 2 teams have made the Colts an offer for running back Jonathan Taylor, with 6 teams already having interest. So you know, I think by the time we wake up tomorrow, we're going to be so confused and so excited and so heartbroken. If Miami gets Jonathan Taylor, this changes how I look at their season. I know you have them ranked as your AFC champions. I mean, this just puts the exclamation point on that on your projections, right?
If Jonathan Taylor goes to the Miami Dolphins, I definitely do believe that the Dolphins should win the division. Like, because I'm not even worried about Tua's health. I love Tua, and I think that, you know, I've definitely turned around on him. This is a great scheme. It's an offensive scheme that suits his talents extremely well. I love what Mike McDaniel does. I really do. I love the offense that he's got here. If they get Jonathan Taylor and don't have to rely on, you know, the injury history of Raheem Mostert or Jeff Wilson, and you add that bell cow back in Taylor to this Miami offense, it's going to be ridiculous, because even if Tua gets hurt, Mike White can run this offense.
I
said
agree.
it before, say it again.
I agree for sure. Wendy made it in the room. Well, here's what we have so far. And funny, you said you like McDaniels. I love him. And I love him even more after what he did for us this week. So Monday was a very big day on the McAfee show, because Gumpy, who has been deported for the last 400 some days to Canada, finally made his return in person on the show. And I've been a big advocate to get Goomp back. You know, I tried to figure out how I could marry him, but we don't have any photos together. I was willing to do anything for the listeners and myself to have him back in studio. And they collected a little montage from people saying welcome back, and McDaniels did one, and I was like, yo, this guy is just cool to put his time aside, make a minute-long video. But I'm gonna tell you what we got in here right now. So far, we were talking about the underdog higher or lower. You're going to fantasyalarm.com underdog. If you use the promo code ALARM, you get 100% deposit for a match up to $100 for first-time depositors. We so far have 6 saying Lamar Jackson will rush for more than 55.5 yards versus the Houston Texans. We have 2 that say lower.
I'm going higher. I really think, you know, it's kind of funny. A lot of people are talking about, you know, Todd Monken's offense and the air raid scheme, and Lamar's going to throw more and he's not going to run as much. What the air raid offense does is it spreads the defense horizontally. So that ends up opening up running lanes like wide open. You know, you've got like all of these receivers and pass catchers just scattering into the into the defensive backfield, right? And so the coverage is all over there on them. And then you've got Lamar Jackson who's rolling out, and if they're worried about the coverage there and Lamar is outrunning, let's say, some sluggish linebacker who's behind him, you know, Lamar's going to see daylight and he's just going to go, because that's what he's used to doing. I mean, he will air it out if he needs to, but if he doesn't see it, he's more than happy to keep running. So I think here for week 1 against the Houston Texans, who have always struggled against the run, I'm definitely saying higher than 55.5 rushing yards for Lamar Jackson.
And I am with you. And that brings us as a total of 8 for higher and 2 for lower. Let's move on to Bijan Robinson, the talk of the town, the rookie running back in Atlanta. Atlanta also here on your predictions list, Howard, for being your sleeper team. So Bijan Robinson, 71.5 rushing yards versus the Panthers, who last season did have a decent defense. Are you going higher or lower? And what about all of you here in the room? We're talking about higher or lower, 71.5 rushing yards for week 1. Bijan Robinson making his rookie debut against the Carolina Panthers.
I have made money on Bijan Robinson since he came into the league. I actually... I ended up at 3,000 to 1. Took 3 plus 3,000, so 30 to 1. That the Falcons were going to take Bijan Robinson at pick 8. You know, I had seen what they had done during the offseason and how they went through building up their defense, building the offensive line. That it just made sense, because this is the type of guy that Arthur Smith needs and wants. I'm all in on Bijan this year. 100% all in on him. So for week 1 against the Panthers, do I think that he balls out and maybe has some of the jitters and just kind of shakes that off and does his thing? I will say higher than 71.5 rushing yards for Bijan Robinson. The fact that it's only at 71.5 in an offense that does nothing but run the ball, yum, 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 yum.
Okay, we've got quite a few higher with you, only one lower. We've got our friend James who says 90 to 100 yards, and that's not just running yards. So some pass catching as well. Scott says the guy was a stud at Texas, so I say higher. So we're 2 higher right here so far. Let's go with a curious one. What is the room going to say? We're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver, Mike Evans. We love Mike Evans. We love Chris Godwin. Do we love the quarterback? Are we sure what's going on here? Are we confident? What's happening here? The number is so low for Mike Evans. It's 58.5 receiving yards versus the Vikings. But it's just low for Mike Evans if he was being thrown the ball by somebody else.
Yeah, I mean it's a little low for Mike Evans, but and the funny thing is I think a lot of people are going to think that this is like a sucker bet because Minnesota was so bad against the pass last year that I'm actually going to say lower. Because this is a run first scheme that they're running in Tampa Bay. Dave Canales wants to establish the run. He wants the short, quick, high percentage passing. Yes, it will eventually open up deep shots against some defenses, but man, I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy. Last year he struggled significantly. I mean, people are going to say, people are going to yell at me and be like, well, listen, the last 2 years he was with Cleveland. He was one of the most accurate passers on deep passing. And I'm like, yeah, well, that was with Cleveland, and he had Nick Chubb in the backfield, and he had one of the best offensive lines in the game. Tampa Bay's offensive line is not the best offensive line in the game by any stretch of the imagination. So I'll take lower for Mike Evans.
We've got quite a few in here. So James says he likes Mike. He helped me win some championships, but Baker does scare me lower. And this is a great example for everyone. Like, we love a player, but the situation we don't love, you know what you do in a situation like this? You just don't make the bet.
Yes.
You don't play it. If I ever am that unsure, hey, give us till week 4. Sure, you might miss out on something, but don't force yourself to make a decision because there's so many great things to play on all these different sites. So we've got some hires, we've got some lowers. I'm just going to go right to the New York Jets.
Oh, come on. Why are you doing it? Over. Higher.
But it is a matchup.
Higher.
Aaron Rodgers facing the Buffalo Bills.
He's Aaron Rodgers.
Von Miller is going to be right there waiting to gobble up on Aaron Rodgers. And we know the line is not the best thing about the New York Jets. 253.5 passing yards for Aaron Rodgers in the room right here. If you were to go to Underdog right now, fantasyalarm.com/underdog, remember there is a 100% match on $100 for new customers. Are you going higher or lower on this one?
I want to stall a little bit, and I will say that for those of you who do go to Underdog, right, or who, if you've never played on Underdog Fantasy before, do it. Go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and use the promo code ALARM for that 100% match deposit up to $100. And if you want to do a best ball draft tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, me, Britt Flynn, Andrew Cooper on Alarm Fantasy Football are doing a best ball draft, and all new Underdog users get priority to draft alongside us. So follow me on Twitter at RotoBuzzGuy. And if you sign up at Underdog, hit me up and tell me and you want to draft at 2 p.m. Eastern. Higher. 253.5 passing yards in a game against Buffalo where, yes, Buffalo's got a great defense. Yes, the Jets offensive line is, having some issues right now. But the Jets don't want to lose the first game of the season. They're at home. So, I look at this and say Rodgers does whatever it takes to get the job done here. So if that means throwing for 275 to 280 yards, yes, higher for me.
My new friend Tony says Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder, will play lights out all year. I say over. I feel the same way. This is no different than Larry David opening a spite store when it came to coffee. Okay. This is the same thing. This is a spite season. And I agree with you. Look, I think he's going to go out of the gate showcasing all the receivers that not only he brought, but his new love for Garrett Wilson. 253.5 passing yards when defenses are still a little soft the first 3-4 weeks of the year, getting their act in gear. You always see a little sloppy, right? Things can be a little bit sloppy. We haven't heard as much news out of Buffalo as we would like to, since we still don't know how Stephon Diggs feels about Josh Allen, right? That's on the offense side of the ball, but I think this is going to be a time where Aaron Rodgers goes out. He's done all the New York things. He's wearing the chain that Sauce Gardner got him. Like, he's just so swaggy right now. His drip is next level, and I do believe he can throw for, I'd say, 275 game 1 against the Bills, and that would be meaning we are going with higher. We have quite a few hires. Jeff thinks it's going to be a shootout, which how happy would we be if the week 1 was a shootout? We want exciting football. All right, let's get one more right here. The last one I'm going to go to is Aaron Rodgers' old friend Davante Adams, who still gets it done no matter how his quarterback is. And it is a low number right here, but he is going against a team that does have a decent defense. Davante Adams, 79.5 receiving yards versus the Denver Broncos. Are you all in the room going higher or lower with me?
For me, as the answers come pouring in here, I will just say, for me, I'm going to go with lower. I think that Patrick Surtain II is going to be glued to Davante Adams. I think they still need to work a few kinks out. With this offense, Davante Adams said that he wasn't happy with the direction that the offense was taking. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not really your typical deep passing guy. He definitely thrives more in the short passing game. So tough secondary. We're still trying to figure out what, Las Vegas's identity. So I'm going to say lower than 79.5.
I agree with that as well. I would go lower too. And not only that, we just kind of ironed out the bumps with Josh Jacobs this week. There's been a lot of things going on that have distracted them from having that cohesiveness that they would need to really be entering strong week 1 and week 2. But let's talk some drafts, everybody. We've had a couple since we last met, since we last saw each other. We've had quite a few. I had one last night. Now, mind you, I was just wrapping up a podcast interview, and I was like, all right, I know this thing's going to go into auto draft, and I can handle that for the first 3 rounds, because I feel like how bad could it be if it goes into auto? And I just got there for my 3rd pick. These are the first 3 picks it gave me. By the way, my team name, Nailin' Palin. Every once in a while, I like to, give Sarah Palin some love.
Throw it back to your Oscar award-winning film series. I love that.
Yeah, if you're going to invite me in, because until I know who's on my team, there's some cute names that I love that tie in with players, but I don't like to use them because then everybody knows you want that player.
Mm-hmm.
So, that can be really something. So started out, the auto draft gives me, these are the 3 picks I get. Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, and Aaron Jones. I'm not mad at that for auto draft.
No, there's 0 chance I'm mad at that. I mean, you could say, Aaron Jones might be a little overkill, and what wide receivers got passed up at that point.
Lot.
But this is hero RB, and Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones. That's starting 2 running backs and 1 flex every single week. I love that. I absolutely love that.
I love it, but then you feel that weakness in your wide receiver room, right? You feel like, okay, so I get to go out there and grab my first wide receiver that I was like, okay, I can do this. Amari Cooper. Am I ecstatic about Amari Cooper? I'd like to be more ecstatic. I'm pretty ecstatic about Deshaun Watson, so why wouldn't I be about Amari Cooper? But again, I don't love having 2 Cleveland Browns on my team that early in the draft. Kind of makes me look like Bowden with Dak and whoever else he drafted.
Well, only if you stack. If Deshaun Watson lands on this team, do I make fun of you?
Okay, so we're going to continue here. A quarterback run started, and it's very jolting. Was that silence enough to explain to you what's happening right now? I should call into the alarm tomorrow. I'd be like, so, Jim, I need your advice on stacking. Is this too much? Okay, so quarterback run started.
I got my consistency guide here.
again, knee-jerk reaction because I come into the room, I have all these running backs, I get a wide receiver. I decided to go Justin Fields because there was a quarterback run having. Okay, so my 5th pick is Justin Fields. 6th pick, George Kittle.
Okay. Take
7th
a
pick,
top 5 tight end. Nice. Okay.
George Pickens.
Big fan.
Big fan too.
Not as big a fan as Jim Bowden is of George Pickens.
Okay.
But I will say that, watching more film on Pickens and just, doing more research into it, I do believe that he is, has the potential to blossom into not just the deep threat for Pittsburgh, right? Like everybody says Deontay Johnson's going to be the move the chains guy and he's going to get peppered with targets and Pickens will be the deep threat. But I think that there's a lot more to Pickens' game I think so. Amari Cooper and George Pickens are your top 2 receivers and you're dominant, like ridiculously dominant with running backs. And you've got one of the top rushing quarterbacks in Justin Fields. So
now we're at round 7. We're now at round 7 with George Pickens. Okay.
Okay.
Round 8 comes along. And yes, I do decide this is a super flex. And I do decide that it is time with the scraps of quarterbacks that are left. And I wanted Aaron Rodgers, but he went the pick before me because I've memorized bye weeks now. I know he's 7. So I was like, okay, I could take Aaron Rodgers. So I took Deshaun Watson.
Definitely.
So now I have Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, and Nick Chubb. So it is a little bit heavy of a stack in a redraft league.
So it's a super flex league.
Yep.
And you still get Justin Fields and Deshaun Watson as your top 2 guys.
Yep.
And you've got those running backs in your stable now. Like I'm at the point right now where like seriously, you could give me I don't know, Michael what's his name? The Michael Wilson from Arizona as your top wide receiver and I still love the team because listen, you're going to have a weakness somewhere, right? So might as well be your wide receiver 2 or 3 is where you're softest, but like Superflex League to walk away with Fields and Watson by the 8th round. I like that. I like that a lot.
Pick number 9. I knew I need to work on another wide receiver. And I'm liking what Jordan Love is putting together in Green Bay. I feel confident. So I went with Romeo Doubs.
I again love that pick. Let me tell you why. You can go to fantasyalarm.com and you can read Howard Bender's fantasy football fades for 2023, and you'll see a gentleman by the name of Christian Watson on that list. I am very much into Romeo Doubs. This is the first time we're going to see LaFleur's offense in its natural form because Aaron Rodgers changed the play at the line insane amounts of times.
Right.
Jordan Love's going to have some autonomy, but not even remotely like Aaron Rodgers had. So this is gonna be LaFleur's offense in its purest form, and he wants traditional West Coast offense, but having the run set up the pass and utilizing the short passing to help move the chains. Romeo Doubs is a great route runner, and like here's a guy who, if you can lead him on a slant, he'll take it to the house. He's got that kind of speed. So that's your 3rd wide receiver in a super flex. You got Cooper, Pickens, and Doubs. And some insane running backs and still Justin Fields and Deshaun Watson. I mean, like, I'm not like, me, Lisa Ann. I would, if your team sucked, I would say Lisa Ann, his team is shit and you should be embarrassed by it. But like, you're piecing this together for me right now. And yeah, this is a great team.
I would like to prepare you right now for somewhat of a homer pick. It could potentially be something that you're also dealing with your other co-host, Jim Bowden. I then decided to go for another running back, and his name is Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be like Rico Dowdle. Yeah. Deuce Vaughn. Good. No, all right. So you're going for a touchdown vulture. You're looking for a guy who's going to just kind of, if you need to use Zeke, and when you've got Chubb, Barkley, and Aaron Jones, you're rarely going to ever need to use Zeke. So
my thought process was to get him on my team in a couple of my leagues for this season. And this is something that I'm suggesting to friends. And just have him there. See what happens by week 3. He could become a very valuable trade piece if you have enough running backs to work with, or he could just end up on the waiver wire. But there's a point in your league where you have to look at a player and think about kind of how else could I utilize this player if they do work out, because I really don't have the space to put him on my team, but I really don't want somebody else to have him if he breaks out. And if he sucks, then he just goes to the waiver wire and somebody can take him. But I do think he could have trade value if he gets in the end zone, let's say 6 times by week 4.
Yeah. Again, I just don't think you're even going to need him. Like, I mean, it's funny like that. Even during bye weeks, maybe.
I went with another tight end. So I went with Cole Kmet, who I read a horrible report on today, which is very upsetting, but I thought I wanted a little friends in my locker room, as I like to say. And because him and Justin Fields know each other so well, they actually play on their real team together. I thought they would bring some of that love to my fantasy team.
Did they? I mean, how's the locker room? Listen, Cole Kmet, he could end up being like just a good red zone threat. He's a big wide-bodied tight end. I don't know what report did you see that didn't sound good about him?
I do not recall. It's going around the data wheel in my mind right now, but I've got 3 more picks to review with you. And
I'm gonna pull it right now. Oh, just undisclosed left practice early. Oh, on a cart.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was something that I tried to black out.
All right.
And act like it didn't happen, like it was fake news on the internet, propaganda.
Moving right along.
Another wide receiver, the reason I went here, so I'm pivoting back and forth, right? I had Tyler Higbee in my queue. He gets taken out. I still realized I wanted some of the Rams offense, but I wanted another tight end first. I was close. I was pick 4, so I was pretty quick to pick another pick. So after Cole Kmet, I went with Van Jefferson, who's another wide receiver that I've got my eye on this season. We know Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp, right? We know what Cooper Kupp would have finished with numbers-wise if he played the entire season. But we've also heard reports that Matthew Stafford feels better than he has his entire life. And if that is the case, then everybody can get touchdowns.
Best shape of his life? Listen, I mean, who else is going to catch passes in that offense? You've got Kupp, you've got Higbee. Who else is there? Ben Skoranek? No.
So I took Van Jefferson there.
Okay. All right. I'm with you there.
Another running back I want to ask you about, Howard. I know you've probably written about him a ton on the Fantasy Alarm, but why is everybody just avoiding Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has just been a massive disappointment. He's been...
Has he? He got injured.
Yeah, he definitely got hurt, but I mean, he hasn't done anything like really like on the field. I mean, he's a good like between the tackles guy. He can, bounce off of a player, a little yards after contact, but there's a reason that they've been sticking so heavily with Jerick McKinnon, and Isaiah Pacheco is definitely on the rise. So if you took Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'm going to say, yeah, that's the first pick that you've made here that I really don't like, only because you're so strong at running back. And you said this is a super flex, so I'm wondering, do you have a third QB? Could you have taken a third QB? Was there one available when you took Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Nope, nothing that I wanted. But look, in 2022, I get it. Only 3 rushing touchdowns, 302 yards. But in 2022, 23 targets in the receiving. So another 3 touchdowns. That's 6 on the season. It is what it is. But he's sitting there, and I still believe in you, CEH. And I gave you a pep talk when I invited you onto my squad. We're going to have a great season together. And last but not least, big shout out to Adam Ronis, Jen Piacente,
oh my God,
Britt Flynn, Jim Bowden, and the entire world that celebrates the team that is America's team. I had to take Michael Gallup. He was sitting there in the 14th round.
Well, go figure. I wonder why.
Okay.
I would have taken that nutless monkey before I took Michael Gallup, for crying out loud. I would have been like, I need a third QB. Maybe Taylor Heineke's available. Desmond Ridder could lose his job. Yeah. All right. So your last 2 picks, I'm not a fan of.
There were a couple people in this draft doing that. I'm going to take 4 or 5 quarterbacks, and then I'm going to wait and throw a bunch back into the waiver wire. Once I saw that happening, I was like, I am not going to play your game and be completely desperate and taking up space on my team, because the game that you're playing isn't that sharp. You're hoarding quarterbacks, and you're not going to have enough receivers and running backs. And you're not going to get anything on the waiver wire that's decent when we're holding, so these are the people that I'm looking at in this league. And I think every draft is really important. I have a notebook with every draft, and I take that season-long notebook with me to every draft. I write notes, and, just like I have colored pens. Like, I'm into it because I want to write down who I've got my eye on, because it's important at the beginning of the season to start monitoring your league mates' teams. Where are they strong? Where are they weak? Because this is going to be a year where I do a lot more trade proposals, just because I want to start trading more and I want to be more active in that category. I'm usually a waiver wire, maybe a trade here or there, or people sending me trade requests. But I think a trade segment on the show would be really fun this season, of like, hey, where do you feel you won or lost in a trade this week? Did you make any that were denied? What was countered? Like, some people said ridiculous trades, but I want to be fair with trading. The only way to do that is to really study your league mates, draft right when the draft happens and where they're heavy.
I mean, that's that, if they're taking like 4 quarterbacks, 5 would be absolutely mind numbing there, especially because you're definitely killing yourself with the rest of your team. But like, you do that with the sole intention to trade, and not just trade, like really try to rake somebody over the coals. Somebody gets hurt and they need a quarterback, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'll give you this quarterback. Like, if knock wood that it doesn't happen, but if one of your QBs gets injured, like, they're going to come to you and they're going to be like, yeah, I can give you Kenny Pickett. You give me Nick Chubb.
Yeah, and I'm not doing that.
I'll give you Desmond Ridder.
I already put the little lock sign by Nick Chubb. Don't anyone ask me about him. Okay? I already did that after that draft. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
He is not available. Okay. He is not even, do not even. When you talk about the lopsided trades, it reminds me of growing up at Halloween. And my brother was very fussy. I could eat any candy, but we would lay all of our candy out, Howard, and we would make trades. And towards the end of it, like, I knew it was very limited options. And I was able to be like, I'll take all of your almond joys for one whatchamacallit. Like, because, he didn't like almonds. So like, by the end of it, he was so fussy. So that's what it's going to end up being like. What it's going to be like for us is we're going to go through one of Howard's drafts. And I'm sure I'm not going to be able to break down anything because he's an incredible drafter. We all know this, but I cannot wait to share it with all of you. Stay in the chat. Let us know when you're doing your next, or if you have an in-person draft this season, and what you're looking forward to the most about the upcoming fantasy football season. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well? Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Eckler's, the Christian McCaffrey's may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple of years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world, who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're in the middle of a draft and you just notice that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy is in my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
Back right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with Howard Bender on the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. And don't forget to go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and get 100% match on your first $100 deposit. New customers only. Great news here. Better Boss is getting out of the house, which always excites me because you never know how wild he's going to get. Friday night, he has an in-person draft with his high school friends, 30-plus-year-old league, plus going to do their first auction. It's going to be a glorious mess.
Right. Don't leave your bag behind. Make sure you bring your bag home with you.
Remember that when he left it at a bar? It was at a bar, right? Yeah, this is why I
at
said
every FSGA event. Come on, it's notorious. We love him for it.
Tony says he has CEH in almost all of his drafts. I'm gonna say this, Tony. If we were on Twitter, I would send you the gift from Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Okay. Yes, we did. Okay, so let's talk about this draft. Oh, you were also going from the 4 spot. This is the Dirty Laundry League. And I love how many of you actually had this apply to laundry, like your Bounce, the fabric softeners.
I thought it was fitting, right? I'm a little heavy, little chubby guy bouncing around. Or, I'm like, hey, I'm going to bounce out of here right now. Yeah,
I love this because 4 people understood the assignment. Sally got it. She put in the Tide Pods that kids used to eat on TikTok. Don got it. He put in Snuggle, and I remember having one of those Snuggle bears. Remember back in the day when you could send UPC codes back to a company and they would send you a free gift? That was such a challenge as a young person. Cutting them all off, you put them in a spot like an envelope. Your parents would have them in the drawer. You knew you needed so many. You'd count them each time. As if it took a while to go through this stuff, but I had the Snuggle Bear. And then Rinse and Repeat. Raina has Rinse and Repeat brand, so that many of you got it. But you're going from the 4th spot. Your first pick, the running back that you have the highest hopes for this year, is Atlanta's rookie running back, Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb went right before me. And I mean, this is kind of where I'm at right now this season. It's, if I've got the number 1 pick overall, I'll lean towards Jamar Chase. But I've been getting into a lot of drafts, and I keep getting like the 9th pick, the 10th pick, the 11th.
Isn't that weird how that happens?
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the problem though, is that you get used to that, and then all of a sudden you realize that you do need to change your strategy when you're picking from the 4th spot. So. But my feeling is that, if I can come away with either Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, or Saquon Barkley as my first round pick, that's what I want. That's what I'm having there. So I actually, because I do have a couple of shares of Jamar Chase, I went with Bijan in this league. I mean, we've also, this is like the 5th or 6th year that we've done the Dirty Laundry League. It's a 24 team. It's actually 2 conferences, which are each 12-team leagues.
Okay.
And within each conference, it's all husbands and wives. Everybody's got their own team. So they're going against it. You guys can find this draft board at rtsports.com/dirtylaundry1. And I'll show you. So Mother of Wolves over there on the draft board, Lisa, and that's my wife, Deborah.
Oh, this makes so much sense. She went with the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Like, I see how this ties in. Her first pick from the 9, 10, 11, 12. The 9 spot was Tyreek Hill. Okay, great.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people in here who you probably you might know, and you don't even realize that you know them. But so when I did this draft, I mean, I know this crew and I know the people who are in it. So I knew that let me hit running back first. Let me get Bijan Robinson. And then it came back to me in the second round. And I got to tell you, I was stunned to see Tony Pollard available, like stunned. And then I even asked as I was taking Tony Pollard, I was like, so why,
Yeah.
why would you? Oh, well, we just heard that Jonathan Taylor could end up in Dallas. Really? That's why you're going to, because you heard that maybe he could go to Dallas, and that's why you're going to pass on Tony Pollard. So that.
And now I understand why you didn't enjoy the conversation in the first hour. For any of you who have come in late, you can always go back on YouTube. You go under the live category, and that's where you see all the updates that were live. So when you go to a YouTube channel, you learn your way around, go to the live, you can go back and see that Howard was not happy that I was like, yeah, I think JT would be great for the Dallas Cowboys. Now I get it because you got Pollard number 2. Number 3, really. Now let's go to Deb as well. So Mother of Wolves, Derrick Henry. I like that pick. I like Tyreek Hill and Henry right there. Great start.
Yeah. Great start for her as well. I took Olave in the 3rd. She took Justin Herbert. And I'll tell you why. Listen, I wasn't planning on taking a QB early in this draft. And you see, based on looking at the draft board, just how quickly QBs were going. It was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 QBs off the board before the 4th round was even over. And then in the round 5, even before I went, Trevor Lawrence went. So I was like, all right, well, with all of these QBs going early, it's going to push down somebody. Like there's going to be value to be had. So, Tony Pollard fell to me in round 2, Olave in round 3. I mean, when was the last time you saw T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, and Drake London in rounds 4, 5, and 6? That to me was just, I was blown away that they let me draft this team. And then I took James Cook in round 7 and Jordan Addison in round 8 before I even remotely thought about taking a QB. Oh yeah, look, there you go. There's the draft board.
And what I love too is the fact that when you look at everybody who held out and didn't take a quarterback, there were no quarterbacks taken between round 6 and round 7 at all. But there was a quarterback or 2 around up until round 5. So it was like, okay, well, I either got a quarterback or I'm holding out and I'm going to take advantage of all these players. It's called pivoting. It's called people ask you what's your plan? I'm like, you really got to read the room. Yeah. You really got to see what's happening. You got to take advantage because you're still able to get Tua. And your second quarterback is my favorite person, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Because here's the thing, when you're drafting multiple QBs, and we do this over at Fantasy Alarm, we talk about our dynamic tier rankings. You take like a Mahomes or an Allen or a Burrow or Herbert at the top, and that you're pretty well set. If you even think about drafting a second QB, you're doing it super, super late because it's just a bye week filler. But when you're waiting on a position and you're taking, a guy like Tua is fantastic. And we saw what Miami's offense was like with Tua under center at the beginning of last year. But there is the concussion history. There's the injury history. So what you do is you take a guy who can be absolutely explosive like Tua, and then you pair him up with Aaron Rodgers, who is a high floor quarterback. You're not going to get 157 yards and 3 interceptions out of Aaron Rodgers. You're going to get at minimum 250 and 2. That's usually what you're going to get. So to have that kind of a floor, a safety guy in Aaron Rodgers like that, then hey, Tua to the moon, throw it off to Waddle and Tyreek, all day long. Give me 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'll take it every time, but I have to protect myself when I'm waiting on the position.
Now, you also waited on the position in the tight end room. So your tight end starts out, your first tight end. I don't know if you have another. Is this the 16-round draft or is there more underneath this screenshot?
No, just a 16-round
Okay, great.
draft.
So your tight end, were you planning on going Freiermuth and he got ganked before you? Or did you want Sam Laporta?
I did want Sam Laporta.
Okay.
I think he's in a really good spot.
So you believe in my friend Jared Goff, don't you?
Okay, sure. Because he's your friend, yeah, sure. But with Jameson Williams out, everybody and their grandma is
Smart,
all
yeah.
over Jahmyr Gibbs. But I mean, what happens if Jahmyr Gibbs is nothing more than a pass catching third down back?
Sure.
Like,
we don't know that yet.
All the hype that he's got, we all heard this hype on DeAndre Swift. So for me, I was like, I was into Dalton Schultz, and I was hoping that Dalton Schultz would fall to me in round 10. I ended up taking Tua because I was like, all right, let me jump on the QB now. Team 1 had already double tapped with Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. So I was like, okay, I need to take, my QB now. So I grabbed Tua, hoping that I could get Dalton Schultz on the way back, but he went the pick right after me. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll go with Laporta. I probably should have taken a second tight end, much in that same dynamic tier rankings aspect that we were doing, and maybe not take Singletary or Pierce, maybe take
I know you like Kenneth Gainwell, but you could have taken Evan Ingram after Tua, who I really like this season.
Yeah,
and I know everybody.
I love Gainwell.
Okay, you love Gainwell. Okay, then you're good. But I know everybody is talking about the fact that Calvin Ridley is going to take so much work away from Evan Ingram. But the chemistry that Evan Ingram and Trevor Lawrence built last year still means something, if you ask me. And I think it's still going to be pretty solid, especially because we get so hit or miss with tight ends, especially because we no longer have the tight end whisperer.
Yeah,
He
I'm
retired.
here. I mean, I passed the baton to Andrew Cooper, and he's doing a great job with that.
Okay.
He was the one. He was the one shouting Evan Ingram's name from the rooftops last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will definitely go along with that. Well, I wanted Tua, and I love Gainwell, and I got Rodgers. I'm okay with Laporta again. I think I should have taken like Dalton Kincaid or Greg Dulcich instead of Singletary or Pierce, and I probably would have been better off.
What's the possibility that you can trade Singletary to the manager of, why is his name slipping me right now? I just had it. Houston Texans running back.
Schultz?
No,
Houston Texans running back?
Yes.
That's Singletary.
No.
To Pierce's owner.
Yes. Who has Damian Pierce? Okay, Damian Pierce went in the 3rd round to Humble Pie Chris. That's pretty high up there. Man, just workshopping it. If there's a Pierce injury, you know where you're going.
True, very true. But he's only got, he's only got Hockenson, right? He didn't take a backup tight end.
Yeah, but you love Cortland Sutton. Do you think you could take Cortland Sutton if this team manager was desperate and lost himself Damian Pierce and you were sitting on his backup, Devin Singletary?
Unfortunately, he knows he took Cortland Sutton. Like, he and I were on the phone during the draft, and he took Cortland Sutton right in front of me and laughed his ass off on the phone. I was like, you got to be kidding. He took Sutton and he took Dubs, right?
See, this is what happens when people listen to you give fantasy advice and they draft with you. They know exactly who your darlings are.
I already told him. I threatened him. So that happens to be that's Chris Kuroda. That's Fish's lighting designer.
Okay.
So I told him that I'm going to go to the shows in Colorado and I'm going to stand with my back to the stage and I'm going to stand right in front of the light booth like this.
And act like you don't like the lights?
I'm just going to act like I don't like anything. And I'm just going to stare him down the entire time. And I'm just going to be like,
I hate to break it to you, but once that music gets going and you're feeling your vibe and you're in your special place right before you gun it down for the season, and this is going to be, a little hoorah for you, you're not going to be able to stand still. You're going to start beebing and bobbing and you're going to do it. It's Fish. I mean, really, you think you can stand still at a Fish concert and Mad Dog somebody? The vibes are so high.
I think for the joke and how fucking funny it would be, like, if I genuinely did that, I mean, even for like a full song, forget about the whole show or just like a set. I genuinely feel like that would just, like, for the joke, it would be hysterical because I think he would just, he would laugh his ass off. He would try to phase me out and just kind of do his thing. But I think he would laugh his ass off if I genuinely pulled that off. I probably won't, but I'm just saying it would be fun.
After Devin Singletary, you took Alec Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, everyone's loving Mr. Scampers loves your team. Of course. I mean, come on. Howard going to be pelting lights with a potato. Imagine. I mean, people are throwing things on stage nowadays. A potato has not yet been thrown. You could get into a news story for a totally different reason. But everyone says, James says, you have a very solid squad here. We know this.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, again, I think it's a matter of, like you said, it's knowing who you're drafting against, and it's reading the room. And if the room is going to give me so much value at wide receiver like that, after taking running back, 1 and 2, I mean, I'm going to take that every time. I will always find a way to like make the QB position or the tight end position work for me. I'll always find a way to do that. If you're going to keep giving me rock stars like Higgins and Allen and London,
no, I
and
love
Olave even. Olave's like a late second round pick. I couldn't believe it.
And I still think people are sleeping on Keenan Allen and Mike Williams due to the fact that, yes, they both have injuries, not new news in the NFL, but also because Kellen Moore is going to change things a lot there for Justin Herbert. And I think this is the opportunity for that offense to be what we thought it should be, because Justin Herbert is amazing. This is a kid that plays through injuries. This is a kid that's just dynamic and it's fallen apart the past couple of seasons, and this could be a really big season.
I mean, if you know Kellen Moore's offense, which you do.
By the way, thank you, Sean. Apparently, according to a quick Google search, a potato has already been thrown against a singer before, allegedly, and it was Melanie Martinez was the singer that got a potato thrown at her.
Aw, well, that's kind of that's a huge bummer.
Yeah, right.
Like, why would you
wanted to do it first.
What's that? No. Why would you bring a potato to a show unless like you were specifically like either you're just really sick and twisted and you're gonna like eat a raw potato like an apple, or you're gonna like throw
Sounds
it.
so starchy.
It's
I mean, by the way, Sean says there's actually a YouTube clip of this. This made its way to YouTube.
I want to see this. Can't you pull that YouTube clip up here? Can't you show this? I want to see this poor girl get hit. Melanie Martinez, wasn't she on like The Voice or like America's Got Talent or something like that?
I watched none of those shows. I act as if they're not even in my world. I can't. I've never watched a minute of those shows, but you give me a season of Love After Lockup or 90 Days.
Yeah.
That's
What's
trash.
wrong with you?
It's
What's
trash.
wrong with you?
It's my mental escape. First of all, it makes me so happy that I've never been so just in that space. Or same with 90 Day Fiance. Like, it's just wild what people do for love, and I've just never chased love that hard.
You just like trashy TV.
I do. I do like trashy TV. I don't want to watch people compete. I don't want to watch people get judged. I just want to watch trashy TV so that I can judge.
So you can be the one. Well, you're allowed to call, dial in and vote for these competitors here, Lisa. So you could be judging.
We got a defense here with your 15th round. You went with the Jacksonville Jaguars. How close do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars defense can get to what they were like 3-4 years ago?
In truth, I'll just say I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to like about the defense. I was just kind of waiting on defense and kicker as this was going on. You could see that Rinse and Repeat stuck her middle finger up at me. That happens to be Chris's wife when she took the Jets defense in round 11, and you should have heard
I can't believe the Jets defense made it to round 11, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? So you're in favor, like when Eller, who is the defending champion of this league, when she took the 49ers in round 6, I was blown away. And then the Eagles, Deb took the Eagles in round 9, and I was blown away. So I kind of figured that the Jets would just sit and fall to the end. But
It's
no,
crazy.
Rhea was like, up yours, Bender.
I've seen this year before round 10, 4 defenses go off the board in every league before round 10. And at that point, I'm just not doing it, right? But it's the Jets, it's the 49ers, it's the Patriots, and it's the Eagles. And I've seen them go as early as round 3. And when somebody does that, I'm like, good for you. That works for you. But you just let another player fall to me.
Yeah, Exactly.
And we play
And there you go.
matchups, and you end up having to let a defense go during a bye week unless you're going to let a player go over a defense. But like, I don't know about you, Howard, but I'm much more likely to swap out a defense on a regular basis than any other position.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I am all for playing defensive roulette and see what happens. You know what I usually do? I usually take a defense that I really like that has a bye week in like in week 13 or 14. Because then I just drop them into my lineup and then I don't think about it. Win or lose doesn't matter. Like, you know, there's every defense is going to have its highs and its lows. So,
by the way, can I just say that we have a bunch of people in here that do like 90 Day Fiance? Also,
stop it, people.
Below Deck is another great one. If you've ever seen Below Deck, another reality show, they take these people out on this boat. Like, you're on the water with these people. You don't know if you're going to get along. It's wild. So Mr. Scamper says there's a reality show about competing landfills. Unite both sides. That could be a joke that I'm not getting.
I'm not getting that either. Do you watch? Here you go. I'll just because Deb watches some trash TV also. Love Island UK.
Not yet, but I hear it's fantastic. But I'm catching up on a Love After Lockup series right now. I only have about 2 hours a week I equate for this kind of trash. So you get behind on these shows and you get home from traveling, whatever. There's like 10 episodes. I'm like, and I love it because you can burn through the commercials. You know, you can just like fast forward. It's trash, but it is brain off. I'm going to enjoy some vitamins, you know.
Gross.
You know, I'm gonna have some vitamins.
I'm gonna enjoy some vitamins. I'm gonna take my glaucoma medication and make sure I don't get glaucoma in order to make this happen, in order to make this show work for me.
It's all about the milligrams, buddy. It really, really is. Okay, it is all about the milligrams. But you know, MTV's Challenge, that's the 101. I remember that. I remember all of these shows. I remember watching Big Brother when it first came out, Survivor Island. I loved The Amazing Race because I just thought it was cool. You got to see all these different countries, you know, the challenge of it all. But, you know, watch a couple seasons, those you're like, all right, I'm over it. But you can never give me enough 90 Day Fiance. You can't.
My boy Frenchie was on Big Brother a couple of seasons ago.
Oh, yeah. Did you like the experience? Because it can be stressful. There's a camera in your face all day.
Unfortunately for him, so, you know, Frenchie, if you're watching, I love you, brother. You know I love you, but he got so paranoid. So Frenchie, I met him through Fantasy Alarm, and like he actually took part in the FF Pie bet. You remember when we were doing that?
Of course, I've been pied.
I know you were. Did you pie Babchick too, or did Babchick
No,
pie
Babs
you?
had to pie me, which I thought was perfect because it's something he's always wanted to do. You know what I mean? So like when I was thinking, when I'm running around the city, like who's gonna pie me? I'm like, oh, let me go over to Sirius and Babs will do it after his radio show. I love every minute. But we will definitely do some more pie bets because it is fun.
So I met Frenchie like through that and whatever. So he landed on Big Brother. He got so paranoid. He was such a smooth talker and was vibing with everybody. And then he freaked out and they voted him out first. He was the first guy voted out this season.
So devastating. So devastating. Yeah. It's definitely, these are just, you know, things you do when there's not sports activity. Now, I know when the football season is wrapping up, Howard, we're going to be getting knee deep into NBA because you came to me and said you want to learn the NBA this year. Am I correct on this?
You're 100% correct. You need to teach me NBA.
I'm all in. Okay. Not only am I all in, but we will have opportunities. Like if you pass through the city, I have some good access to MSG. So we'll go to a game. Have good seats, be able to have lounge access, you know, live like we deserve to live, really analyze the game. But the NBA news never ends. Lonzo Ball's beefing with Stephen A. Smith right now about him saying he couldn't walk. He did a bunch of exercise on the internet yesterday. Like it just always is feeding the machine. NBA, James Harden decides to come out in China at an event 2 weeks ago and talk about he will never work for the owner again and how he feels about more. It's very reality TV-ish.
When you're out here, you're going to take me to a Warriors game then too?
Oh, we could do that for sure. That's actually easy access with Warriors as well. So we will do that too. But for you, you've got everything going on at fantasyalarm.com. You guys can get involved. Girls, guys, everybody in the room. By the way, Billions is tremendous. And Only Murders in the Building is a great show too. fantasyalarm.com/underdog. Go over there and have some fun. You can get a $100 match, 100% match to your first $100 for new customers. You're going to go there. We've got more fantasy football drafts coming, which means next week will be kind of our last breakdown of just drafts before we're actually talking about being 24 hours away from our first NFL game in the 2023 season.
Can't wait. Jets Buffalo. Oh, I'm super pumped about that. How about that? Monday Night Football for week 1 for me for the Jets. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. I'm super stoked about it. We're going to have an amazing season. You and I together here on this show, we're going to have an amazing season together.
We are going to have a ton of fun. We're going to do pie bets. We're going to keep all this going. We appreciate all of you in the chat. You made it a ton of fun tonight. You can always go to YouTube and hit that share button and share the show with your friends on your timelines. We have an even more robust community coming in here. You know, you can hear Howard every day on the Fantasy Alarm as well. I may have to call in and talk Bowden off the ledge about his stack, talk about mine. But thank you all so much for joining us here for Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with Lisa Ann and Howard Bender on the Better Sports Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm. And thank you to our producer, Sean Engel, for killing it with us tonight. Have a great night, everybody.